I'm an engineer, senior engineer for Eurostar. I've been working there for 17 years. I do week on, week off, down in London. Live in Nottingham, obviously work down in London. And when I was at work, I would stay at my dad's, which it was nice because I got to spend the week with my dad, help him do bits and pieces. Certainly more as his health deteriorated. And then obviously on my week off I'd be back at home and catching up with stuff at home. So yeah, that's kind of how life was pre-COVID.
For me personally, it's like I was in Cornwall in January and it was sort of on the news but felt like an abstract thing. So I just wondered what your experience of that was.
Yeah, kind of the same. It was my daughter Lou was asking me about it when it was becoming sort of more to the forefront of the news stories, and I said to her, "Oh, you know, it's not something that will affect us. And I truly believed that, you know, it would be something that would stay in China, you know, maybe hit a bit of, you know, sort of other parts of Europe. I really didn't expect it to you know, for it to have such a major impact on us as it has done the rest of the world." And then slowly, obviously working for Eurostar and the lockdown started and the services we were running became less and less, and the procedures and things that were put in place, the reality of the situation started to hit home, I think. Just before lockdown came into place, I'd actually been signed off work with depression. I'd started counselling and other bits and pieces, and being off sick, it was quite sort of surreal, really, for then to be told, "Oh, you're going to be furloughed as well," kind of thing. So I'm furloughed till the end of this month, the end of August. My father, because he had COPD, had said to me, you know, I'm on the at risk thing. I need to self-isolate for 12 weeks. So rather than seeing him every other week, I'd phone him probably pretty much every other day. And I'd said to Lisa at the time, it's bizarre that I'm actually speaking to him more during lockdown than when I was there during the week, because I work nights. We'd only sort of see each other in passing during the day. So yeah, it was bizarre that although we were 150 miles apart, we were talking more than we had done in, you know, sort of years and years. And then, yeah, out of the blue, I had a phone call from my sister saying that my dad had phoned her. She lives a lot closer than I do, and it'd been sort of quite poorly. Had collapsed in the kitchen basically, and then managed to phone my sister. Her and her boyfriend went round there, got him cleaned up, and called an ambulance, and that was on April the 12th. I, rather than, obviously with everything going on, I was sort of quite mindful of not wanting to speak to the hospital every single day, as well as my sister speaking to them. So I said to her, look, if you're happy to phone the hospital and brief me, you know, obviously let Dad know that, you know, I'm thinking of him, and I'd text him. Didn't get any replies, but you know, if he was, you know, the phone was flat or whatever, he may not have got the texts. So my sister sort of phoned, and by the Monday, this was the Thursday he went to the hospital, by the Monday, all signs were good. They'd done some tests. My dad seemed to sort of play things down a little bit, and believed that it was just a flare-up of his diverticulitis that he'd had before. So we were kind of almost expecting him to come home by the sort of Tuesday, Wednesday. And then it was, oh, you know, we just need to do a few more tests and such like. And then on the Thursday evening, I spoke to my sister, and she said, I don't think I'm asking the right questions. I think there's more that they should be telling us. So I said, well, look, let me phone on Friday morning, and you know, I'll sort of fill you in. I'll let you know what's happening. Spoke to a medical doctor, because he was on a surgical ward, and we'd only been speaking to surgical doctors at the time. Spoke to a medical doctor, and she asked if I knew what was, you know, going on, what the state of play was. And I said, well, he's had some tests done, and as far as I know, he was going to be coming home on Wednesday. And it was then that she said that she was very concerned for his health. They were doing everything they could to keep him comfortable. And I asked, you know, do I need to pack a bag and sort of make my way down? And she said, well, leave it with me and I'll sort of phone you back. I immediately said to Lisa, that's it, you know, we're going down, let's throw some things together. Phoned my sister, explained to her. I think she was a little bit shocked, as was I, and I don't think really processed the severity of the situation. As we were driving down, we had another phone call from the hospital to check if we were on our way, and they said that, you know, they were doing everything they could. He'd already had a chat with the surgical doctors, and had said that he didn't want to be resuscitated. My sister, we met my sister at my dad's house and then went on to the hospital. It was about 20 minutes from my dad's house to the hospital, and when we got there, we went up to the ward and we said, oh, we're here to see Mr. Beanie, and they said, oh, have you had a phone call? And I said, well, yeah, you phoned us as we were coming down and told us that. They said, oh no, we're ever so sorry, he passed away about 20 minutes ago. So it would have been about the time that we'd got to my sister, and it was almost like he'd waited until we were all together. I think the other thing was, once he'd decided, and he'd spoken to the doctors about the do not resuscitate, he'd decided that, you know, I'm accepting what's happening, and he went peacefully. You know, there was, from what they say, there was no pain, no discomfort. So, you know, we take something from that. But then, obviously, on top of that, we then had to deal with the funeral planning, which is heartbreaking because at the time, depending on the area where you were having the funeral, well, everywhere, you were limited to the number of people you could have, and it was awful to sit there and try and think who you would invite and who you'd have to say no to. And you know, I spoke to my sister at length about it, and it was, you know, do we just have Lisa, myself, my sister and her boyfriend, or do we invite at least some family? There was some family that couldn't make it because of their lockdown restrictions. But in the end, we decided to invite as many people as we could, and then obviously once things have become a little bit more, dare I say it, normal, whatever normal will be, we will have a sort of a proper send off for him. But yeah, it was so difficult to try and make a decision as to who you should ask. You know, and without wanting to upset anyone and, you know, make anyone feel that they weren't considered or more or less important than anybody else. It made a difficult situation even harder.
Because I guess in normal circumstances, if your dad had collapsed and been taken into hospital, you'd have been there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So can I ask a little bit about how it felt not being able to do that?
Yeah, you can't feel empty and useless. Obviously, you know, he's in hospital. He's in good hands, safe hands, in the best place. but it's the not being able to go and visit when he's been in hospital before. You know, you've been there every day for him. You know, you've taken him things, you've sat with him, you've talked to him, and you know, the thought of him not having anyone with him was hard. I think even for my sister, who as I say lives a lot closer, it was hard for her. But yeah, the distance added to it. And yeah, it's just a feeling of at least if you're there and you're seeing him and you're talking to him, you feel like you're doing something, even if you're doing nothing. But to actually be able to do nothing, it's the worst feeling in the world.
I'm just interested in whether for some people sort of having lockdown and having this prolonged period of time has actually helped your mental health, or whether being at home all the time and this happening with your dad has kind of made it worse, really. I don't know. That's kind of where
I think had this happened and I hadn't been signed off, and I'd still been feeling how I'd been feeling without recognising that I needed to see a doctor, things would have been completely different. I saw a really helpful lady at the Bay Tree Clinic, at Lady Bay, a lady called Karen, and she sort of counselled me and just allowed me to speak, and like openly, no judgment or anything, and it helped not prepare me, but it allowed me to think about why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and help me to process things, whereas before I was an emotional wreck, and in like some mad downward spiral. But going to the counselling helped me sort of put things into perspective and into focus, and being most of the way through the counselling when my father passed away, I think I was mentally stronger than I had been. Having still been off work all this time now, it's given me a lot of time for reflection and to decide where my real priorities lie. It has been hard being sort of stuck indoors, and for a lot of the time, you know, only going shopping and you know, sort of not going out and about and meeting people. But I think having the time off, it's allowed me time for reflection, and you know, sort of just to have time on my own when I needed it.